Well, I've been watching the news again these last few days, and that's very rare for me. But the things that stood out: Iran, the Strait of Hormuz, talk of Taiwan and China, analysts saying the U.S. military is already stretched too thin to cover both of these major threats at the same time if things go sideways. And then there's the familiar background noise. One side of our politicians calling the others communists, the other side calling them Nazis. The volume keeps going up while the actual problems stay the same. Most Americans are not living those extremes. Most of us just want the country to be competent, secure, and not permanently on the edge of the next crisis. Now, I'm a retired military veteran. I have 2 sons who are on active duty right now. I do not want conflict. I especially do not want one with them in it. So when the headlines stack up like this, the first question that hits me is not partisan, it's practical. Why are we still exposed to distant oil choke points in 2026? The Strait of Hormuz still matters because a large share of the world's seaborne oil moves through it. That's a fact. Markets react to it. Allies care about it. Prices respond to it. If you don't believe that, just check the pump. Closing or threatening that waterway creates real economic pain, even for countries that produce a lot of their own oil, like us. But here's the part that rarely gets said clearly. The more we electrify daily transportation and generate more of our power at home, the less leverage any single foreign choke point has over the American way of life. We are already one of the world's largest oil and gas producers. We have substantial domestic resources. America is not energy poor. The problem is not that we have no energy. The problem is that we still need large volumes of liquid fuel every single day to move people and goods the way we currently do. That liquid fuel dependence is what keeps us tangled up in places most Americans would prefer we didn't have to think about every night on the news. Energy independence is not isolation. It is options. When a country needs less of something that has to travel through contested waterways, it has more freedom to choose when and how it engages. Now, China has already learned this lesson. Most of Europe has already learned this lesson. Even Ethiopia is ahead of the U.S. embracing EV technology and green energy. They have no dependence on foreign oil. Less dependence on oil means fewer situations where the only realistic choices look like military escalation or economic disruption. Let that sink in for just a second. What I'm saying is simple. You do not have to be a dove or a hawk to understand leverage. Leverage is logistics. Now, let's take a look at China. A serious conflict with China would not stay cleanly military. It would hit the American economy hard and fast. Supply chains, semiconductors, critical minerals, finished goods. Just take a look at any shelf at your local big box store if you need to be convinced. We are deeply intertwined with China, whether we like their politics or not. Anyone who believes a major war stays neatly contained is not looking at the real map of the modern economy. Most Americans already understand this instinctively. We want credible deterrence and strength. What we do not want is a war that tanks our own standard of living and then ask our kids to go fight in the middle of it. So why do I spend my time talking about electric vehicles, renewable energy like wind and solar, battery storage, and practical energy independence? Because this is one of the few levers that regular people, people like you and people like me, actually control. I cannot set foreign policy. I cannot move carrier groups. I cannot negotiate with Tehran or Beijing. But I can decide what I drive and how I power my home. Millions of households making those same decisions change that demand curve over time. Those decisions will change how much oil we need to import, or more importantly, how much oil we need to protect. Those decisions made by individuals like you and me change how exposed we are to events thousands of miles away. That is not left wing. That is not right wing. That is arithmetic. Put solar on rooftops and over parking lots. Add batteries that store power for when the sun isn't shining. Use wind where the resource is good. And drive vehicles that run on electricity instead of refined petroleum. Electricity that is produced by our nuclear power plants, our solar panels, our wind turbines, our natural gas, and yes, even our coal. None of this requires perfection. None of it requires everyone to agree on climate models or pick political teams. It simply requires building systems that let us generate and use more energy closer to home. I've lived this for years. Cross-country trips, Florida heat, Florida storms, normal daily driving. The cars that I drive, the electric vehicles, they work. The charging infrastructure, it works. The household math works for a growing number of people. Every mile driven that does not require protecting somebody else's shipping lane, like the Strait of Hormuz, is a mile that does not put our young men and women at risk, and more importantly, it keeps our military free to defend what really matters. Us. Think about what that looks like at scale. Homes that produce a meaningful share of their own power. Parking lots that do the same instead of just radiating summer heat. Batteries that shift that power into the evening and through short disruptions. A vehicle fleet that increasingly runs on electrons generated inside our borders rather than molecules that have to cross oceans. That does not eliminate the need for a strong military. It does not make geography disappear. It does not turn adversaries into friends. What it does is shrink the list of reasons we have to put American lives at risk over energy. That list is still too long. Making it shorter is a rational national interest, not a partisan project. I keep hearing people say that we have centuries of oil left, so why worry? Having large reserves is not the same thing as being free from the consequences of global oil markets and global oil choke points. As long as the daily operations of this country still require vast amounts of liquid fuel, those distant waterways retain strategic weight. Reduce the daily requirement, and that weight decreases. That is the simple logic. And it is a fact that nobody in their right mind can dispute. When people ask why I keep making these videos, why I care about real-world EV range, DC fast charge reliability, home solar systems, battery storage costs, and the practical details of living with electric vehicles, this is the quieter reason underneath the numbers and the road tests. It's not about signaling virtue. It's not about joining a team. It's about reducing the number of places where American blood and treasure have to be spent so the rest of us can keep living the way we live. As a retired veteran who spent months overseas away from my family, protecting places like Kuwait and Iraq, the Panama Canal, and Eastern Europe, I have no interest in seeing the next generation sent into the fights that better energy posture could have made less necessary. As the father of 2 active duty Navy sailors, that interest is even lower. I want them home. I want their peers home. I want the country strong enough that we are not constantly one crisis away from having to choose between bad options. Most Americans are not extremists on either side of the EV versus ICE equation. We want the lights to stay on, the cars to move, the economy to function, and our kids to come home in one piece, and the country to remain capable without being permanently locked into energy-driven confrontations. Electric mobility paired with serious domestic generation moves us in that direction. Slowly, imperfectly, unevenly, but measurably. That's why I do this work. That is why the details matter. And that is why I will keep talking about what actually works in the real world instead of the noise you get from some of the other people in these spaces, especially the anti-EV crowd. Thanks for watching this one all the way through. Drive safe, charge smart, be happy, and treat others with kindness, and I will see you out there or somewhere along the route from point A to point B. Take it easy, everybody. See you soon.